Hi, I'm Madeline, and in the simulation I was the medic.
I'm Aaron, and I was the environmentalist.
I'm Jenny, and I was the photographer.
I'm Mike, and I was the leader.
I'm Michael, and I was the marathoner.
So what did you guys think went well during the simulation?
Well, what I think went well is that Madeline, Jenny, and Mike all made it to the summit, and that we completed more than 50% of our goals. Also, that as a group we didn't have any major disagreements. What do you guys think didn't go so well?
Well, I thought that during the simulation we all had bad health at one point or another, and that caused some issues for reaching the summit. And then in real life, like, we all had so many schedule changes that it kind of made it hard to get the assignment done. But it's okay. But what could we do differently next time?
I thought we could have been more on the same page as a team. I didn't know my pre-existing health conditions before I attempted to summit, and I was taken off guard when my health went to critical after the first climb. So
Yeah. And I also think next time, like, we could make a set schedule so we have less confusion.
Yeah, I think that was kind of a big thing. Like outside of the simulation, like we kind of like had to reschedule multiple times, but if we just had the set schedule and
Yeah.
met up at the right time, it would have been
So,
better.
like, what are some concepts we can relate to the simulation?
Basically like the simulation working as like an entire system. I realized like we as like the team members were like the agents of the system, and like the inputs included like the weather and then our own like health problems, and
Yeah, I mean, I think also like with the outputs, it's kind of just our personal goals as well as the group goals and how we could accomplish those, and then the processes is more of our decisions at each round, everything kind of deciding when to go to camp, who needed medicine,
Yeah.
all the stuff that
And then
happened
there are
with those.
obviously like different boundaries in the simulation, like the physical boundary of like the mountain that we were climbing, and then like hypothetically just like all the different challenges that we faced and like had to overcome, like those were different boundaries. What about like the social worlds and stuff that?
Well, I thought that hypothetically in the simulation, all the group members would have come from completely different social worlds and would interact differently. Like, for example, the photographer and the leader would have different ways of communicating with each other
Right.
about how to reach the top. So, I don't know, what about in real life?
It kind of relates to our group as a whole in real life, and each of us comes from like a different place, a different social world, and then we kind of all have come together to complete this simulation and complete this project.
Which kind of relates to like how we were like coming into this project, we were just kind of like thrown into a group. Like I didn't know any of you guys beforehand, but
Yeah.
I mean it was never like weird, like we just came together and like worked together, and I think it all works out like
Made it work.
really well, so.
Yeah. So, what about our emotional intelligence?
I feel like we can incorporate our emotional intelligence with it because in the simulation and out of the simulation, everyone has a very different emotional intelligence and how they kind of react and interact with everyone. And I just think people also have different needs and they need to be focused on at different points. So say when people were sick during the simulation, and we were kind of more focusing on them during it.
Right.
And I think, like, an example would be when Jenny and Aaron had different goals that conflicted, where
Yeah.
Jenny had to stay at 2 different camps.
Yeah, one of my goals
for-
was like to stay at camp 1 for 2 days and then to stay at camp 2 for 2 days, but then we realized like
Yeah, and
we
Aaron-
didn't have that many days.
Aaron had to stay at a different camp for an extra day, and we only had 1 extra day, so in order to reach that, we had to compromise one of his goals, because to lose both of your goals is worth more than to lose one of his goals.
Right.
I'm also like a very competitive person, so when I saw my goals, I wanted to complete them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all were kind of like.
So we all just stop and discuss you two, because we focused our emotional intelligence on you guys
Yeah.
to solve that. I don't know, what do you think we learned from this?
Is that me?
Mm-hmm.
What do I say?
Well, I guess we learned that in order to succeed as a team, we need to give up our personal goals, and we can't let that, like our personal goals, fog like our team goal.
And that, like, how that relates to the 5 dysfunctions of a team, and how the inattention to results, if you're not paying attention, if you only care about yourself and your own goals, then as a team we wouldn't have made it to the summit.
Yeah, like your ego can't fog what everyone's trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good kind of point too, just like in general for everyone in life too. It's just like, if you're not focusing so much on your own results and kind of focusing on the group results, you're gonna do a lot more.
Yeah.
That just, I feel like from the 5 dysfunctions of a team, it was really obvious that they did their worst when they were focusing on themselves, and they did their best when they were focusing on the group, and I think that really showed in this simulation.
Yeah, and if we had all not worked with each other on the simulation and just paid attention to ourselves, we wouldn't have, none of us
Yeah.
would have reached the summit.
And just like the fact that like before we like made our decisions after each day, like we all like were on the exact same page and we were all like unanimous on what we wanted to do. So I thought that made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I mean overall it was, we completed like 60% of our goals or something.
Yeah.
Which I thought was great.
I think it was 54%, so more than
Yeah.
half, so that's great. But I don't know, what conflicts do you guys think that we had throughout?
Well, like as a group, just in real life, we had to change our schedule a bunch of times, like where we were meeting, when we were meeting, and then right before we would have a meeting, we'd switch it again, and like
Yeah.
that just kind of made it tough, like always wondering like when we're actually going to get this done and when we're actually going to meet.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know, overall I think that we really learned a lot of lessons that we can apply to like a real life situation.
Yeah.
Like if we have a job in the future, we have to make sure that we don't just focus on our personal goals, and we have to learn to compromise.
There's no I in team. Which we definitely learned after doing this.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, for me, sharing.
You're fine.
Alright. For me, giving up my goal was a personal accomplishment because I'm a really competitive person, and it was hard for me not to try and complete all my goals, so I felt that was a pretty big successful part of my simulation. Do any of you guys have any
Yeah,
goals
well,
you guys?
like for me, going along with that, like when I was growing up, I was always like too focused on everyone else, so this helped me that like to succeed as a team, we had to like focus on each other, so it wasn't all about me. And
Yeah. And that's why I feel like just having this as like our midterm project was like a lot like it just gave us more like real life like context, and it wasn't just like a basic like written test. Like we actually got to do like hands-on things, and we realized like what is more important when it comes to like working together as a team, and like it was just a lot more practical, and like I don't know, I enjoyed it. I thought that it was a good experience.
Yeah, I think this is very beneficial as opposed to like standard tests, because this actually lets us interact in a group,
Yeah.
like how this class says we're supposed to, and it really teaches us how we can do this different ways and like look at it from different perspectives, and also like go through the good and the bad of it, and at least have some experience with groups like this when you're kind of thrown into a group that you don't know and don't have any experience with before, and just have to get a common goal accomplished. I think
Yeah.
that's cool to like have
And
that.
I think like then in the future, like when we have a job and we have to work with people, like we're gonna be able to apply this better than if we just read the book and
Took
know
a
the
test on
yeah,
that,
if we know
yeah.
the definitions of these concepts, like great, but if we actually know how to put them to use like we did from the simulation, then that's gonna benefit us for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I thought that it was very helpful for me personally.
I thought we got thrown into like a bunch of real life situations and like real life conflicts that we had to work around. So I think it really like brought us together as a team, and it was just kind of hard working with like 4 different people you never met before, but I feel like we made it work.
Yeah, and even if like it's a hypothetical simulation, like we're probably none of us are ever gonna climb Everest, but
Yeah.
like we're gonna have times where someone on your team is handicapped in some way, and we're gonna have to use our emotional intelligence and focus on that person and give them empathy so that we can pull the team's weight for them, with them.
Yeah, I think it is just really cool that this is like real life situation kind of thing, even though it is hypothetical, it does really benefit us in real life situations and like teaches us how to deal with these things, which I think is cool.
Yeah. Yay.